Well, we certainly weren't expecting what he produced in that game, because I think either the game before or one of the early games that Australia played on that tour was at Worcester, and Graham Hicks smashed him all over for a big 100. And apparently Shane Warne had been told by Alan Border not to bowl any googlies or flippers or variations, so just to bowl a leg spinner. So he kind of kept a lot up his sleeve, I think.
I was pretty nervous. It was a long time ago, 13 years ago. I hadn't played a test match against England. I'd only played test cricket for a couple of years. And I'd been in and out of the side and hadn't really done that well. And had obviously heard about the Old Trafford pitch and about how much it can spin and things like that. And you know, Mike Gatting and Graham Gooch, two of the best players to spin in the England side at the time. I was looking down there at Mike Gatting at the top of the mark. I was just hoping to sort of land at land a couple of good ones rather than bowl a double bouncer or anything like that.
We'd had a couple of overs of seam, and then all of a sudden, I think it must have got somewhere around about lunchtime or tea time, and it was a sort of Warney, come and have a bowl, you know, and it was what the papers had built up, you know, Mike Gatting, good player spinner, Shane Warne, their sort of secret weapon. And I remember AB threw him the ball and said, Warney, just make sure you don't bowl it short and wide, that little fat bloke down the other end, you know.
Shane Warne, off only 2 or 3 paces, he bowls, and Gatting is taken on the pace, bowled! Well, Gatting's still standing there, he can't believe it, but that must have turned a very long way. We haven't got a view of this, but it took his off stump. Gatting can't believe it. That is Shane Warne's first delivery in a test match in England. He's comprehensively bowled Mike Gatting, and well, we'll have to wait for a replay, I'm afraid, to tell you exactly what happened, but that must have turned an awful long way. And we're still waiting for that. Mike Gatting is still walking off now, shaking his head. He just can't believe it at all. Bowled for 4, and England are 80 for 2. Warne, as you'd expect, is being surrounded by Australia's fieldsmen. They're all clapping on the back. But we can see the replay now. It's tossed up and pitches around about outside the leg stump and turns absolutely. That turns feet.
I remember watching it live, and I remember it. I think everyone just stopped. It ended up pitching outside leg stump and hit the top of off. It's the kind of delivery that a young leg spinner would dream about bowling.
Well, I was obviously back in the pavilion. I can't remember actually watching the ball live, but I certainly remember watching the replay, because there was a kind of, not astonishment in the dressing room, but just a general kind of, oh, you know, look at this, make sure you look at this, and obviously the look on Gat's face as well was generally one of bewilderment. And what I remember about the ball was, it wasn't so much the spin that did Gat, it was the drift in the air. It got incredible drift.
I remember him walking off and looking back a couple of times, I think at the big screen, to just see exactly what happened. I think we all looked at it to see how far it spun and that sort of stuff. And as I said, it was just one of those balls that just sometimes happen.
My old pal, the captain the other end, sort of said if it was a cheese roll, I wouldn't have let it pitch. That was Mr. Gooch. But yeah, it was a quiet dressing room when I came in, because, you know, they all appreciated I wasn't a bad player of spin, and he just sort of, it did sort of send a little bit of a, if he can be as accurate as that and spin it as much as that, we're going to have to play well.
I've heard a lot of talk about the fact that particular ball maybe created this psychological dominance that Warne had over England for the next few years, but I think that's nonsense. He's just he's one of the greatest bowlers that's ever played the game.